Welcome back. We started something on stress before we went on break. So we're going to look at stress now. Stress is a degree of emphasis attached to a particular syllable in a word or even in a sentence structure. And that means you have, or stress can be discussed at two levels. At the level of a word and then at the level of a sentence, or a level larger than a word, a group of words. So stress at the level of word, we call it word stress. While at the level of a sentence, we can talk of emphatic stress or intonation. So we're going to look at some of them with examples as we move on. So stress can be simple to some extent, especially bisyllabic words. For bisyllabic words, stress can be really simple because you just need to know basically the word class of a particular lexical item. For instance, you need to know that a word is a noun or an adjective. Once you know that a word that you are about to use is a noun or an adjective and it contains only two syllables, how to stress it is simple. For nouns and adjectives that are bisyllabic, the primary stress falls on the first syllable. I want to take that again. For nouns and adjectives that are bisyllabic, a situation whereby you have two syllables, the primary stress falls on the first syllable, not the second. A lot of time you have it on the first syllable, but there could be some exceptions. As a matter of fact, there can be some exceptions, or there are some exceptions, but basically that should guide you. And then for polysyllabic words, we rely on word endings, the suffixes. The suffixes guide us when we want to place stress, the primary stress appropriately. Now, for bisyllabic words, before I move on to polysyllabic, if you have a word like contact, contact, the form is noun, and when it is used as a noun, you're going to have contact. If it is a verb, you're going to have contact. Contact. If it is a noun, you're going to have contact, because the primary stress is on the first syllable. But if it is a verb, you're going to have contact. Then, like I said, for nouns and adjectives, the primary stress is always on the first syllable of a bisyllabic noun or adjective. Then, for verbs and adverbs, the primary stress is always on the second syllable. For instance, you have between. So the primary stress falls on TWEEN. Do you understand? So that's how it works. So if you have this understanding, stressing bisyllabic words will not be difficult. I want to repeat again that for nouns and adjectives, where you have bisyllabic words, the primary stress is on the first syllable. And then for verbs and prepositions, where you have bisyllabic words, the primary stress falls on the second syllable. But then we have a lot of issues when it comes to polysyllabic words, where you have more than two syllables, 3 and above. You have to rely on suffixes, word endings. And if the word ends with Y, probably TY or PHY, or other suffixes that end with Y, the primary stress falls on the third syllable, counting from the end. For example, you have clarity. The primary stress falls on CLA, clarity. So if you are counting from the word ends with TY And if we're counting from the end, ty syllable, ri syllable, then cla syllable. So you have 3 syllables, and since the word ends with ty, then the primary stress has to fall on the 3rd syllable, and then you have 1, 2, and 3. 1 t, 2 re, and then 3 clarity. So this should guide you in words like philosophy. Philosophy is also going to be on law. Philosophy. Philosophy. Do you understand? Geography. 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 So it's on the 3rd syllable. The O is the one that receives the primary stress. Then for optional, you also have 3 syllables. You have optional. So the word ends with al. So the syllable, the stress has to fall on the 3rd syllable, counting from the end. So the 1st syllable at the end is NAL. The 2nd one TO, and then the 3rd one OP. So it has to be on optional. Optional. Then you have generous. The same thing, it ends with OUS. If it ends with IOUS, it is going to be on the 2nd, but we get that. So since it ends with OUS, then the primary stress has to be on the 3rd syllable. And that is why you have generous, GE, on the line. Generous, because the degree of loudness has to be here. Generous. Then for words that end with IVE, for instance, representative, representative, you're going to have it on the 3rd syllable. That's why then is stressed in representative. Do you understand? Then for words that end with IAL, not AL this time around, IAL, the primary stress falls on the 2nd syllable counting from the end. That's why you have financial. Then you have, for words that end with AN, the primary stress still falls on the 2nd syllable. That's why you have civilian, civilian, civilian. And then you have bakery, bakery. You also have words that end with IC or ICS. The primary stress falls on the 2nd syllable as well. That's why you have demonic, politics, mysterious. And then the same thing with bacteria, Victoria, hypnosis, nutrition. So mark the endings, and then it is going to help you in your exams. So now that we are done with this aspect, I want us to look at some past questions. It means that we have exhausted our discussions on some of these very important topics that you need to take note of and prepare for before going into your exams for use of English. So let's look at some of the questions that we have here that have been said over the years. The first one is a comprehension passage which, because of space and time, we did not, project the passage for you. But 2018 JAMB questions, test of, use of English. So let's look at the question that came up, one of those stuff. It says, why do you think the master fought back with his look rather than with further argument? This question is testing your understanding of the ability to come up with the information that is not clearly stated in the passage. In the passage, the writer did not tell us why. But here the examiner is asking you why you think. Meanwhile, if you read the passage over and over, you will not see why there, clearly stated. But you are going to make use of the information that is there to come up with the answer. So you don't even bother to answer this particular one until you get the past question where you read it and then you answer. Then another question that I want us to look at is this. Question 3 of the same year. This one tests your understanding of figures of speech. We discussed them. We looked at simile, we looked at metaphor, we looked at personification, we looked at irony, hyperbole, and the rest of them. So here was one that was picked from a passage. It says, the expression is rock the boat. Rock the boat. So what is the meaning of the figure? What figure of speech is it? And when you identify the figure of speech, you should also know what it means and the effect it has. But we're not going to go into that because your exam will not specify, will not give you the opportunity to look into that. So let's look at this one, rock the boat. What figure of speech is this expression? So you have A, simile, B, metaphor, C, personification, and D, hyperbole. What do you think is the answer? The answer is clearly metaphor. Rock the boat, because it has an underlying meaning. All right, another question that I want us to look at will be on this instruction. It says, after each of the following sentences, a list of possible interpretations of the sentences is given. Choose the interpretation that is considered appropriate for each choice. So you are going to have an expression, they will pick out an expression and you interpret it. They'll still give you options. So you use the first one, the one that you think is the correct one. The amount he donated was small. He said it was his widow's mite. Of course, widow's mite is an idiomatic expression. So what is the meaning of this idiomatic expression in this sentence? So what does it mean? A, he was a widow. B, he was misery. C, it was all he could honestly afford. D, he could have given more. So obviously, a widow's mite is, of course, it's taken from a historical book, a Christian religious historical book that has to do with a particular widow. I don't want to go into that story now, but it has become an idiom and people use it. So your widow's mite is what you can afford, no matter how little it is. So C is the correct answer. Then there is also another question on idioms as well. We discussed them. From the way Ngozi behaves, it is obvious she is a greenhorn. A greenhorn. This means that Ngozi is A, arrogant, B, cautious, C, inexperienced, D, uncivilized. A greenhorn, inexperienced, is the correct answer. If someone is a greenhorn in a particular profession, he does not have experience there yet. He's just there newly. Okay, so let's check another one. This time around you have an instruction which says, from these questions, choose the options opposite in meaning to the words or phrases in italics. Now we talked about antonyms, opposite in meaning, and we tried to look at some examples. So let's see some of the questions. My father is a very prosperous businessman. A, prosperous, underlined. So what is the opposite of prosperous amongst the options given? Ungrateful. B, unscrupulous. C, unskilled. D, unsuccessful. So what do you think is the answer? D, obviously. My father is a very unsuccessful businessman. That's the opposite of my father is a very prosperous businessman. Okay, let's look at the other ones. The man who had been seriously ill was convalescing at a seaside resort. A man who had been seriously ill was convalescing at a seaside resort. Now, convalescing is underlined. Okay? Convalescing is underlined. So what is the opposite? A, regaining health. B, deteriorating in health. C, recuperating. D, relaxing. The opposite of convalescing is what we can call deteriorating in health. Convalescing when you are recuperating. Do you understand? So deteriorating is an answer, which is B. All right, so let's move on. Another instruction. For the questions, choose the options that best complete the gaps or gap. Okay, as the case may be. He was dashed by the tricksters. A, assisted. B, duped. C, enjoined. D, encouraged. So which one do you think we go with the expression, the one that is most appropriate? So B is the correct answer. He was duped by the tricksters. Another question. The emir and conqueror of the enemy territories dash next week. A, arrives. B, are to arrive. C, arrive. D, are arriving. Now this question is testing your knowledge of concord agreement, subject-verb agreement. So the emir and conqueror, it's definitely talking about one person. You don't have two subjects. The only subject you have is the emir. Then conqueror is still referring to the emir. So you are talking about one subject. Therefore, arrives is the correct answer, which is A. Okay, another instruction. In each of these questions, choose the option that has the same vowel or vowel sound as the word represented by the letter or letters on the line. So let's check. So here you have question 56. It says key and EY on the line. So A, sit. B, bet. C, seat. D, tread. So the answer is obviously C, because seat contains the long vowel E, the same way you have it in key. All right. 57, taught. You have AUGH on the line, and the sound that is realized here is the long O sound, taught. He has taught me in primary school. So A, law. B, art. C, count. D, Plato. So A is the correct answer because you have law, which is a long O sound. Art, which is a long A sound. Count is a diphthong, ow, count. Then Plato is also a diphthong, and as realized in letter A. Okay, so let's see other questions. In each of these questions, choose the appropriate stress item from the options. The syllables are written in capital letters. Now you are going to be tested on stress, word stress. So the first word you have is distribution. Distribution. So A, distribution. B, distribution. C, distribution. D, distribution. So which one do you think is the correct answer? I'm going by word endings, the suffixes that should guide you. The word ends with ION, and we said earlier on that words that end with ION or TION or SION, the primary stress is always on the second syllable, counting from the end. So in this case, A is the correct answer, distribution. Okay, now 59 is going to test your understanding of emphatic stress, stress at the sentence level. And in this regard, you have the question, my house is across the road. Across is emphasized. My house is not anywhere else but across the road. So A, is a house on the road? B, is my room across the road? C, is my house on the road? C is my house across the street. Now, C is the correct answer. It is when someone asks a question, is my house on the road, that you will say, no, my house is across. You will now stress across the road. Do you understand? So that's how emphatic stress works. So now we are done with the questions, and here are some of the materials that I think will be useful to you when you are, now that you are preparing for the exams. You go through these materials and then you read more about comprehension, you read more about summary, you read more about stress, you read more about laziness and structure and all of that. So you take note of them and all of that. So thank you. We have come to the end of this study, and I wish you success in your exams. Thank you.